Phasors. Why do we need phasors? Let's start from there. Okay. We need phasors because of AC systems. All right. What is an AC system? AC system is a power system that has a sinusoid waveform as well as for the for voltage as well as the current. Okay. Now, can we have potentially other different types of waveforms? Yes, we can. We have square waveforms, square pulses, we have triangular, we have sawtooth and whatnot. But which one is the most common? What is the waveform that is the typical output of a three-phase generator or single-phase generator? It is our good old sinusoid. Okay, so other waveforms are possible. You can have power electronic devices, you have choppers and whatnot. You can come up with a whole variety of different types of waveforms, and there can be certain applications where you need certain waveforms. But by and large, our power systems, which is by and large AC in nature since late 1800s, early 1900s, right? We have to live with these guys. Does it make sense? Okay. AC is the dominant form of power system throughout the world since late 1800s, early 1900s. Okay. DC does exist, and it has recently, because of your battery systems, because of your HVDC, high voltage DC transmission, has become more popular. But from a utilization standpoint, residential, commercial, and industrial, primarily we are using AC systems. Okay, so that's the backdrop. Okay, so AC is what we are dealing with. Now, what's the problem? Well, we have learned Ohm's law, right? We know Ohm's law in our undergraduate engineering coursework, right? KCL, KVL, Thevenin, right? Norton, and superposition, right? A whole source transformation, a whole bunch of these circuit analysis techniques, right? You guys know the secret? It's a very interesting fact. As it is in their original form, they basically apply to DC networks directly. Does it make sense? I'm going to repeat it one more time. All the circuit analysis techniques that we are aware of, Ohm's law, KCL, KVL, Thevenin, Norton, superposition, source transformation, and so on, mesh analysis, they all apply to DC circuits. Okay. And now the question is that if the majority of the network that we have, practically speaking, for distribution, generation, and transmission is AC, then does it mean that we just throw them in the garbage and come up with new set of tools for analysis? That's partially true, not the throwing in the garbage part, but new tools. The new tools are per unit analysis, which we go through in detail in P power exam preparation. The new tools are symmetrical components, which we go through in P power exam preparation. But we don't need to throw them in the garbage. We just need to make a modification, an adjustment in terms of how we translate the AC network. Are you guys with me so far? Right? This background that I'm providing you guys, the context that I'm providing you, is very important to understand, because once we get beyond this point, it's very rare that you're going to go back to the basics and fundamentals over and over again. And this is what I like to do in my program, first principle approach towards learning and teaching, and that makes it a little bit more interesting and exciting, right? When you know why we are doing certain things, it's not just to pass the exam, right? To have that solid foundational framework. Otherwise, you'll just hold an opinion that strength training is better than cardio, and cardio is better than flexibility training, stretching, and whatnot. And you yourself, if have not done any of those, right, people will be able to tell how deep your understanding is. Okay. I've got this small request for you. 77% of you watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. That's a massive number. If this video is helping you out in any shape, way, or form, please do me a quick favor. Please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. That way you will not miss out on any content that we've got planned, and it really supports the channel. All right, so we need to do something about using these tools that we have in our repertoire and bringing them to the world of AC, right? And the simple translation in between modulation that we have to really do is to convert our AC waveform. See, there is a cosine hiding here, and then there is a sine hiding here, because the waveforms are expressed as sines or cosines. So if I just have a sine angle theta, right, what is this guy going to do, right? It is basically going to be a function of angle theta. The waveform is basically going to do this, right? Where if I don't multiply anything with it, the magnitude is going to be 1. If there's no time shifting, it's going to be starting at 0, right? And then for 90 degrees, it's going to peak. And then for 0 degrees, it's going to be 0. And then similarly, the peaks 270 degrees over here, 180 degrees over here, and it will keep on repeating itself. Now, if I say that this is voltage, then that basically means that at these phase angles, your voltage is going to alternate between a magnitude of 1 and magnitude of -1 and 0 and so on, right? If I say the peak is 2, then it basically means that it's scaled up by a factor of 2 and whatnot. So, and as a function of time. So what we are doing over here is that we are looking at a phasor, right? So our voltage or current waveform is in the form of a sinusoid. And this is typically what would happen in AC systems, right? So where do we go from here? We need to be able to use these laws, Ohm's law, KCL, KVL, Thevenin, Norton, superposition, and whatnot. The translation, the bridge, the glue, whatever you want to call it, right? The connection is that you take this waveform. I'm just going to clean this up. I have this habit of just writing on top of text. So let's zero in on this. This is the bridge, right? You do something with the magnitude of the cosine and you do something with the phase angle, take that into consideration, and you come up with a new quantity which represents the original quantity but in a different format, and we call it phasor. So what do you do with the magnitude? You take the magnitude divided by square root 2. I basically go through this derivation. It's form of rectification, right? When you're doing full wave rectification of a sinusoid, you divide it by square root 2. Okay, but it's given in the reference handbook, both F electrical P power, you don't need to memorize it. Division by square root 2, you can even memorize it. And for more details, in my program, I go through it in a lot more detail. All right, and that basically becomes RMS, root mean square. Okay, and the phase angle, you just simply take it into consideration over here. You just simply append it. You just simply add it next to it. Okay. And once you have your quantity, voltage, current, power, or your impedance in this form, you can now go ahead and use Ohm's law, KCL, KVL, Thevenin, Norton, superposition seamlessly. Okay, but this conversion from a sinusoidal waveform from a time domain representation into phasor domain representation is necessary. Okay, you cannot simply take the time domain. You can try to do it and you're going to start hitting roadblocks, because when you multiply, let's say if I'm simply after the P is equal to V times I cosine theta, let me show you very quickly. Imagine that this is a time domain representation of voltage, right? So it has this form. You have a sine factor and a constant over here. Same thing with I. Let's say it's again a sine, right? And then you have a cosine outside. You now have three trigonometric identities that are being multiplied with each other. At every step of the game, of this solution, you will basically have to make use of trigonometric identities multiple times, and life becomes very, very difficult. And this is just the calculation of real power using time domain representation of voltage and current. And you can only imagine when you're doing KCL, KVL, you're dividing with impedance, multiplying currents and voltages every step of the way, how painful it would be. But when we have a phasor representation, right? We have the RMS and the phase angle embedded. It technically is a complex number, right? And if I want to multiply using the same example, a VRMS phase angle theta V with IRMS, okay, phase angle theta I with a cosine, okay, you know how easy it is? Take these magnitudes, multiply them together, okay, and the phase angles simply are added. and cosine theta is just going to be a factor from 0 to 1. That's it. That's how easy it is. Okay. You don't have to worry about the trigonometric identities and this and that, right? So this is a big picture view of phasors. And this type of introduction and grounding, I believe, is necessary for you to thoroughly appreciate it. Why do we care about phasors? Because we want to use our circuit analysis techniques in the AC domain, right? Otherwise, we'll just be multiplying sines and cosines all day long. And once we have converted the sinusoidal waveform for the voltage and current or the impedance in the phasor format, then we can simply treat that as complex numbers and go about our business. Okay. One thing that you have to be careful. So I believe that the square root 2 part is kind of easy. It's not that difficult to miss. But what I find students struggling with sometimes is not paying attention to the form of the sinusoid. You know, cosine and sine are collectively known as sinusoids, right? Um, the phasor form basically requires this step conversion. You can see that I took a cosine and then simply extracted the angle theta out of it and treated that as a phase angle, right? But what if it's not cosine? What if it is a sine? What are you going to do? If it is a sine, then you actually have to go through an additional step of transformation and convert the sine into a cosine by putting it back by 90 degrees. Now, you don't need to memorize it. I actually often get confused. I don't try to, I don't try to memorize trivia. So if you would have asked me, I would have flipped a coin and I'd be like, it's a 90-degree adjustment. I don't remember which one is it. It's 90 degrees behind and 90 degrees ahead. I would have done one of two things. If I was taking the exam, I would pull up the reference handbook and I'll find this relationship, right? And if I didn't have the reference handbook, I would actually sketch this out and I'd see that, okay, the cosine is actually having a value of 90 at 1 and then 0. So it's basically 90-degree phase shift. And I can see that the relationship is minus 90 degrees. It's off by minus 90 degrees, right? So you would go ahead and convert that phase angle, make that adjustment, and you figure out that when you convert the sine omega t plus 50 degrees into a cosine, it ends up as minus 40 degrees, right? The minus 40 degrees is now going to be the phase angle. And you can see that the 50 magnitude is now divided by square root 2. And that's how you'll basically come up with the phasor for this. Outside of this, once you basically start doing the circuit analysis, three-phase, single-phase systems in FE electrical and P power exam preparation, and in the P power exam preparation, when we go through the equivalent circuits, we go through fault analysis, power flow, power system stability, per unit systems, phasors are just going to appear over and over and over and over again. It is probably one of the single most common conversion, single most common tool that you're going to encounter. So that's why it's extremely important for us to have a very solid understanding of phasors, not only for FE electrical, but also for the PE power exam preparation. So in the last few minutes, hopefully what you have learned, the concepts that I explained using first principle gave you a different perspective, a different view of things, and you can just extrapolate this that if we are going through the entire FE electrical and computer exam specification from math, probability, stats, ethics, engineering economics, properties of electrical materials, all the way to software using first principle approach, and then passing the FE electrical and computer exam comfortably, moving into the PE power exam specification, and working through the PE power content in depth, not only will you be setting yourself up for success in terms of getting these exams out of the way in the first attempt and very comfortably, you will also be building confidence along the way. And if you didn't have the best teachers, or you rushed through undergraduate coursework, or you never really had time or energy or focus, or maybe even the intent to basically understand things inside out, look at these programs as your opportunity to basically get the job done, right? And set your career up for success. I like to tell engineers these days that your competition is not only other engineers at the moment. You actually have to carve your career, right? Develop your career, have that in-depth understanding where you're not only competing with other engineers, right, with your credentials, with your experience, expertise, but you're also competing against the big AI, right? So your value proposition for an employer has to be that, okay, he or she is a problem solver. They know things inside out. They can cross connect concepts and get the job done. But if we are traveling and skimming the surface all the time and we have shallow understanding, it will not allow you, and I've seen this over the course of my 10, 12 years of experience as a practicing engineer. There are type A engineers when they are presented with a problem and they are evaluating, not even coming up with a solution, but systematically when they're evaluating the problem, they're so confident in the positions and assumptions that they're making along the way, that it is so grounded in strong foundational understanding that you actually can sense it, right? It's the type of an energy, right, that you can tell that this guy or this girl really knows what he or she's talking about, right? And then there are other types of engineers who are always hedging their bets, and they'd be like, okay, this may happen or this may happen or that may happen, because what are they doing? They're always leaving a door open. Correct? Door open for what? To exit. Door open to be like, oh, no, yeah, you're right. I was wrong, but I told you, like, I wasn't 100% sure, right? So you encounter that, and even when dealing with any professional for that reason, a general contractor, for example, a car mechanic, for example, a doctor, right? An accountant, a person who knows what they're doing will never hedge their bets. Or even if they do, they'll just be like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is what's going on, but I might need to do a little bit of additional testing just to sort of verify my thesis, right? And they're always, another thing is that they're never shy of learning and continuously, building their knowledge base. If any of this resonates with you, and if you want to look at these exams, not only as a stepping stone, but to really enhance your understanding. And most of you are here after having completed your undergraduate coursework. You have spent tons and tons of money, time, and effort getting your degrees, right? And if this slight bit of icing on the cake can help you really connect all the dots, right? Then I would like to invite you to my programs, the FE Electrical and Computer Exam Preparation Program and the P Power Exam Prep Program. Feel free to visit my website, studyforfe.com. I currently have a 10% discount that's going on, and I will onboard every single one of you one-on-one on a Zoom call and develop a game plan based on your scenario, whether you failed these exams previously, whether you're just getting started, whether you are out of school for 10, 15, 20 years. You'll find all different types of stories on all the different type of platforms, on LinkedIn, Reddit, YouTube, Amazon, where people have tagged me, have basically vouched for this program, and will get the job done. Okay. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. On a weekly basis, I'm creating content for FE Electrical and P Power exam preparation. I also discuss topics related to electrical engineering with a focus on power systems engineering. If you'd like to learn more about my FE Electrical and P Power exam preparation programs, please visit my website, studyforfe.com.